Hi everyone, this is For the Love of Comics, and in this video we'll be getting to know Watchmen, one of the most, perhaps the most famous, influential, critically acclaimed, analyzed and dissected, but also commercially successful comic series / graphic novel of all time. We'll be asking, what is Watchmen, what's it about, and most importantly, what makes it so special. In a few days I'll post a few more detailed looks at these comics, but for right now, let's introduce ourselves to Watchmen. Watchmen is a 12-issue comic series published between 1986 and 1987 by DC Comics. It was created by writer Alan Moore and artist Dave Gibbons. All 12 issues have been collected in a single volume several times in several editions by now, including in an oversized Absolute edition. Watchmen was and continues to be a commercial and critical success and has received incredible attention in discussion and analysis, including substantial academic scrutiny. It has been almost universally hailed for its serious and complex approach to a superhero story, for its innovative structure, its ambitious depth in scope, its formal complexity, and abiding impact on mainstream comics. Watchmen starts with a violent murder, the investigation of which leads us into a larger web of secrecy and conspiracy, but also leads the readers into a world very similar to our own around 1986 United States, but including the presence of superheroes. We are thrown into a world on the brink of war, where advances in technology have done nothing to stop violence and hatred between people. Against this backdrop, we are introduced to a cast of characters who once were costumed heroes but have now been outlawed by the US government. The murder of one such retired superhero sets into action a series of revelations and decisions that expose fractured psyches, twisted motives, and crippling impotence, among other cheerful insights. Watchmen is soaked in despair and has been, in part, celebrated, often incorrectly, for its grim take on a then usually bright and colorful and even silly genre. But what sets it apart from the host of imitators that followed is the astonishing craft on display in almost every aspect of this comic. What it's about, in a plot sense, isn't really what makes Watchmen so special. This is a dense and adult work, adult in all sense, not just because it features graphic violence and occasional nudity, but also because it grapples with serious themes and ideas. As twisting and as far-reaching as the plot of Watchmen is, Watchmen, the comic's masterpiece, is less about its plot and more about the act of reading itself, in particular, reading a comic book. You have dialogue and monologue and conversation from one scene overlapping and bleeding in to inform another. You have journal entries, letters, book extracts, newspaper reports, even a comic being read by a character inside this comic all fill out the shape of the story. Design and color are as deliberately and as strikingly manipulated as the line work and the art, creating a distinct vocabulary and a rhythm that almost instructs you on how to read it, left to right, top to bottom, up to down, making focus fall almost simultaneously on a dozen or more elements, all of which you assemble and reassemble as the reader. Text and image are being superimposed, not just panel by panel, but indeed page by page, chapter by chapter, where phrases and terms surface and resurface, and images and icons appear and reappear in different contexts, taking on the power of symbols, creating motifs and patterns that are visible only to the reader. There is not much joy in the story of Watchmen, it's true, but it is nevertheless a supremely joyful book. That's because the joy of Watchmen lies, like much of great literature, in the actual reading of it. Joy is in having the layers peel back in front of you, seeing where you are led by the 9-panel grid structure, by the association of pop lyrics and poetry and myth to themes of human isolation and political unrest. You marvel at the way the sociopathic and the psychopathic stands alongside the noblest of intentions, and you can't always tell the difference. Watchmen is the acclaimed work that it is, not only because it withstands scrutiny, but because it invites it, almost begs for revisitation. It's not just a reinvention of the superhero comic as something realistic and grim. That is the vehicle, but that's not necessarily the point. It's more about how you're reading the story, how it's being delivered straight into your knowledge. And it's about the pleasure of doing it, because you are the one doing it. You're the one who's putting these things together. You're the one who's creating the patterns. You're the one who's creating the motifs. You're doing this by allowing a comic that understands and wields the full power of the comics medium to work its magic on you. There is a lot one could say about Watchmen, and there is a lot out there. Almost every page, every chapter, and every aspect of it, whether it's the script or the art or the design, has been pulled apart and dissected and analyzed at length, and it will continue to be so, because this is the kind of work that really rewards that kind of study. But I think this is fine for right now. I'll be shortly posting a few more Watchmen videos, so check back in or subscribe to get notifications. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for us, please leave them below. Thanks for watching.